But I think the goal is just to talk about, what you guys are up to. I know you guys have all done a lot of things. Other than the fact I know all of you, the other reason for picking this group is because, you guys are still actively sailing as well as coaching. And so I think that big gives a little different perspective. And then, really whatever you guys want to talk about. So
I don't think actively pertains to any of us now, Ed.
What?
Yeah, marginally active.
Hopefully active.
Hopefully active. Yeah, that's true. No one's active right now. But so I guess well, what you guys are all, I guess, at home, right? So Dave, you're in California, Morgan, you're in Florida, and Richard, you're up in BC.
Yep. Feeling pretty fortunate for a place where I can isolate. A couple acres on an island is a pretty good place to try and weather this storm. I joke, right? I keep hoping, and I'm sure, Ed, it's the same thing around your place. I keep joking that my list is going to get smaller. And the more projects I do, the more I kind of go into other projects that I'm like, whoa, I can do this now, and you go after projects that you'd never even dream of. It's the great, like 2 weeks ago, my wife said, let's move the vegetable garden. I'm like, move the vegetable garden? Yeah. You know how it's over here. It doesn't get, blah, blah. After you live in a place for a couple of years, you're like, So where they're like, a couple of years ago, I would have said, no. Now it's like, okay, I can do that. It'll take me a week. So
yeah,
that's what I'm doing.
Exactly. We're in, of course, for both of us, probably, the grass is growing too now. And so then that adds another thing to do. And it's like, gotta get the tractor out and start doing stuff. So, that definitely keeps us busy for sure. So why don't I just start by, we'll just go in order. I guess I had y'all down alphabetically. So Richard, if you can just start off by, doing however you want to, introduce you and what you're doing and that type of thing, but just a brief introduction of what you're doing before this. You can even tell us what you're doing now, and then what you kind of think you have going on ahead of time.
Well, yeah. Hi, world, gang, whoever's showing up. Richard Clarke, pro sailor and coach. Put my coaching hat on for this Sail22 talk, more so. But like Ed said, the reason he chose all three of us is that we've got 1 foot in the sailboat and the race boat, and 1 foot in the coach boat. And I think as we start to get more gray and aged, the more we spend time in the coach boat, and it's, I joke, people are interested in me for my brain, not necessarily my brawn anymore. And it's actually been a really fun transition a little bit to be able to coach. And it certainly, opens up your eyes to some subtle nuances that maybe you didn't see when you were sort of fully on in the competitive side. But it's also really good that I'm still racing, doing a lot of stuff on the Wizard, a bunch of offshore. Interesting. As I sort of transition a bit, I'm doing more offshore, less inshore or buoy racing, and more coaching. But I'm still, actively involved racing. So it does keep, certainly my knowledge current. And it also brings that sailor's perspective to my coaching environment as well. So that's what I'm doing. Been coaching a lot of sort of J70, Melges 24, that sort of thing. Had some really fun coaching moments and some random and different things. I did a Youth America's Cup program in Bermuda back when the cup was there, during the last cup, and that was a fascinating project with a very grassroots sort of program, trying to get them up into a high performance foiling multi-hull. So yeah, done some cool things. And the best thing about this sport is there's always something coming that you can't necessarily expect. That's going to be, yeah, equally fun and a good learning environment for not only the people that I'm coaching and myself. Did I cover it?
Perfect. Okay. That covers a lot, and definitely some great stuff. I'll dig into some other stuff that I know you've done in the past as we go on. But Morgan, do you want to introduce yourself and kind of what you're doing right before this, and then your goals after, where you think you're going to go to?
Well, certainly not doing a whole lot right now, but it certainly the downtime now makes me appreciate what I was doing before that much more. I live in Fort Lauderdale. I've got a wonderful Irish wife and 4 sons between 17 and 10 years old. So it's never quiet here. But I'm hardly ever here because I'm always off sailing or coaching somewhere. Mainly Olympic 470s. Now. I'm a British Olympic team coach. What now. I was doing. Yeah, that much. And I live in Fort Lauderdale. Coach, wonderful Irish wife and 4 sons. Long delay. And I'm coach RC44s as well. So it's a joy to be part of all those teams. And sitting around here makes me miss them that much more.
I'm sure. Got a busy time before this, an exciting time. I know the last coaching job you had, and so maybe tell us about that and what you're doing, and then what you have ahead. Is obviously some plans have changed there as well.
Yeah, my last coaching effort, I was at the 470 Worlds in Palma, and we had 3 days. We'd been there about a week training, and 3 days before the first race, they decided the regatta was going to be canceled. So I had a quick meeting with my sailors, and we said, that's fine, we'll stay here and we'll practice. And so 2 days later, the Spanish team met with us and said, we believe that they're going to lock the whole island down and you're going to have to stay off the streets in your hotel room. So quickly made efforts to get out of there. And at the time, we'd heard that they were closing the airports from everywhere in Europe bar the UK. So made a rush reservation on EasyJet to get to London, and then flew London, Miami to get home at the last minute. And no one asked me where I'd been, what I'd been doing when I got home, as far as customs and immigration went.
Wow. Well, my parents just got back from the Bahamas, and they went through Fort Lauderdale, and they kind of had a similar experience. So it's definitely interesting, the non-comments and things like that when you hear things. So it's definitely interesting times. Dave, you want to introduce yourself? And
Dave Ullman. I have to echo what Morgan said. You don't know what you have until it goes away. I used to complain to my wife, I have to get on an airplane, I got to travel, I got to be in a hotel. And now I wish I was part-time in a hotel and I'm getting on an airplane, but it'll come back. My path to where I am is slightly different than these two. I owned a sail-making company for 50 years. So my basis for my sailing and coaching came from manufacturing sails. Did a lot of professional sailing through those years, and started coaching on Olympic level in, what was my first Olympic? 78, and been on off and on since then. Had a number of projects before things closed down going, mostly in the coaching, doing sailing J70s, but mostly coaching. As Richard said, as you get older, you coach more, sail less. But I think the more I coach, I think it actually helps my sailing. I learn things from observing sailing from off a race boat that you don't see when you're actually racing. It's an insight. If my body was only 40 years old, I'd be thrilled, because your brain doesn't go away, but your body certainly does. But I think that my sailmaking career has given me a little bit of an edge in the coaching side in certain aspects, which people come to me quite often to help them with the rig sail side. So I'm quite lucky that way. And hopefully things get back, though I have to say, when it gets back, it looks like it'll be, for people like us, extremely hectic. There's all the makeup regattas, plus the regattas that were going on. So it's going to be very, very busy, theoretically, in the fall, winter, and spring, especially since, Morgan and myself are doing Olympic coaching. And in his case, the extra year doesn't probably help him any, because he had a very experienced group. But in my case, Steph and Maggie were in their first quad, and as far as getting a medal, this is a godsend. We get an extra year of training against people that are in a second, third quad. So couldn't have asked for something more, other than it drags it on. But it's, we would say, quite an advantage for us to get that extra year.
Yeah, that's definitely the challenge. And, I did the PRO talk last week, and that's basically what they're saying too, is, next, when the regattas start up again, they're all getting pushed to the September, October, November, and maybe on. And so it's like, okay, how many of us are there that can either, run races, coach, sail, the whole combination? And so, of course, then we worry about, people dropping off. And so obviously the big reason to do these talks is to, help people stay attached to sailing. I'll just kind of go in order again. Richard, what are things that you can, from both a coaching and sailing perspective, what are things that you can talk to people about what they should do right now? Maybe first, if they can't go on the water, but they can see their boat. And second, if they can go on the water, but they can't go racing.
Yeah, we're certainly on that cusp of being able to go back on the water, at least. Here in Canada, we're a couple weeks out, and there's already been a fair bit of work done in place about advising the clubs nationally upon how that would look, and advising the junior sailing and development sailing programs upon how that would look. So the on the water thing is going to come, although it's going to be coming in. Yeah, you're going to have to sail with your family. Is how it's going to start if you're in a double-headed boat. Obviously, it's a lot easier if you're in a single-headed boat like a laser or an opti or a BIC or something. But then there's still obviously rules around isolating on the docks, etc. But yeah, what can you be doing? The nice thing is that you can now look forward to hopefully getting on the water in a couple of weeks, where 2 months ago it was scratching your head when. So that's obviously going to make probably people a lot more excited. So you certainly should be thinking first and foremost, if my boat is accessible, what are those projects that maybe I haven't done yet? What projects could I do? Maybe you've already done those, but certainly what a great time to do boat optimization. We could make it look all shiny and quick, or replace those lines that maybe needed to be replaced, or do some splicing, or even learn new skills, right? Like those are the other things that can still be done, right? Is those skills that you can learn online. And what could those be? Splicing is one. You can certainly, there's a lot of those videos out there. Whether or not you could do, you've got a bigger or a boat, maybe you've got an engine, whether you can sort of look at some stuff online, whatever it could be, winch servicing. I'm sure there's a large variety of things you could pick up and sort of self-educate yourself to improve your craft and your boat, or whatever it could be, right? The other tool, the other things, right, is again, with sort of everything you can do online. Obviously, something that we're doing now here with this chat, but there's a vast array. There is there's certainly, I know people are doing the virtual regattas, and I'm not so much, I haven't gone into it. I don't know how applicable it is. Maybe Dave or Morgan or Ed, yourself, you can talk about that a bit, but I seem to have enough on here in my little part of the world where I don't have time for something like that. But, we're certainly, that's the virtual regatta sort of it. And then, I would really stress and take this opportunity to reach out to somebody like myself or people that you may or may not know for advice or anything else. We well, personally, I'll speak for myself, right? Have spent probably more time now reaching out and helping local sailors on the phone or by email. I've been doing some online coaching sessions with the Salt Spring Island Sailing Club Junior Program. They have a thing every Friday. So we're a very approachable group. So take this opportunity to reach out and maybe see if one of us coaches can help you remotely.
Well, one of the things I know, Richard's staying in shape, and I know, for us that are Facebook friends, you see him both exercising as well as, doing yard work and things like that, some of Richard and myself have the ability to have more extreme yard work with more extreme yards. But that also helps the mind as well, I know. So those are good things. Morgan, do you have some suggestions of, how are you staying in shape yourself, or how are you keeping your mind sharp and that type of thing? What can you share for us there, Morgan?
Well, I have to thank my wife for forcing me to do workouts with her every day. But I think back to when I was in college. I went to the U.S. Merchant Marine Academy, and part of the curriculum there is you go to sea for a total of a year, 6 months in your sophomore year, 6 months in your junior year. So my freshman year in college racing, I was an unguided missile. I was really fast, got in protests every regatta, mostly got thrown out, and figured I could make up for it all at the national championships. And lo and behold, I finished dead last. So thankfully I was picked to go. I was the youngest member of this British America's team race tour. And I got to watch Petey Dickey, who had won the nationals, Jonathan McKee, one of the best sailors in the world, Nevin Sayre, one of the best windsurfers, who were all on our team. And I was the youngest, least experienced one on the team. And I watched what they did and saw how well prepared they were. And I didn't get a chance to put it into practice for another 6 months. So I had to go to sea on a big, nasty merchant ship for until the following January. So every day on that ship, if there's one thing I hate to do is run. Always hated to run. So on the ship, I ran every day down below decks, 1,000-foot ship, did 2 laps, and thought about what I had to do to make up for my dead last at the Nationals. And, big sacrifice for me to get up and push myself and, try not to trip in the dark passageways and the watertight hatches. But I did it, and next time I got to race, won the first regatta, won the next regatta, won the next regatta, and won the Nationals by 27 points. And it was just a matter of making best use of the time I had. And clearly we can't go sailing, but we can get ourselves in, top physical condition. We can get ourselves in, a positive mental state, probably just by staying busy, like Richard was explaining, moving his garden and going from, one work list to another. But, the opposite side of that is sitting around feeling sorry for yourself and thinking about all you've missed instead of preparing for your next opportunity.
Yeah, and I think that's the what we see with, obviously, whether it's a sport or business, is the top people, you know, they figure out what's going on. And I know in our situation, the money side of things is a little more difficult because people aren't ordering things for their boats. And so it's like, okay, what do we do to keep sailing in front of people? And, you know, my thing is, let's get the best people that we know and let's get them out and let people talk to them. So, Dave, what are you doing right now to stay in shape, both physically and mentally? Doesn't even have to be sailing related, obviously.
Well, physically, we play tennis every day, my wife and I, and we have 2 instructors, and we play 2 hours every day. We also have some property on what's called the Hollister Ranch, which is 8 miles of private beach, and we walk the dog, and I do some running, very little, but some. And so, you know, we stay in relatively good shape. As far as mentally, I just try to stay alert, figure out what's going on, talk to my stockbroker occasionally, try to sort that out. But on another subject, at least in California, most of the harbors are open, and there isn't any reason why people can't go sailing and practice. You can do remote coaching. You can talk to your coach. You can even have a coach go out with you as long as they stay their distance. And you can have a tuning partner. So there isn't any reason why people shouldn't be out sailing and preparing for when Regatta's open. We were doing our Olympic campaign in our prime years, which was 77 through 80. We sailed by ourselves in Long Beach 5 days a week after work. There isn't any reason why people can't be out. If you're serious about the sport, out practicing, and you don't need an organization for it to be organized to practice. Individual practice has huge benefit. And if you want some advice, the 3 of us here will obviously give you advice on drills, ways to practice, ways to improve. And any other coach, if you have a coach or if you know of coaches, they're all going to be more than happy to help you. So there's plenty of information out there if you're serious about your racing. And if you're not, go sailing just for the joy of it. Much better to go out and go sailing single-handed or two-person boats rather than staying home and sitting and doing nothing. Get out on the water. Like I say, California is open, you know, not for regattas, but the harbors are open. You can go sailing.
So Dave, what's one drill you'd recommend people do if they could go either single-handed or double-handed, go out on the water and practice?
One of the there's 2 drills we do that requires a coach. You could do it on your own, but a coach is much better preparation for this. And that one of them is with no line set a starting line a half a mile long and do a 2-minute running cycle and have to start in the middle without line sights. Be surprised how hard this is. It's incredibly hard to be close by looking at both ends of the line if it's really long. We do that, and all the people I coach, we do that 2 days before the regatta starts, just as a warm-up. Another that goes along with this is and this is all, you could do this on your own. You know, you wouldn't have to have a coach, but a coach or another boat tells you how close to the line you are. Another is to set up a quite short starting line, and for 45 seconds, you have to be on starboard tack, hard on the wind, full speed, and see how close you are to the line. So basically judging time and distance for 45 seconds before a start. These are 2 drills you can do, you know, till you're beyond board, that really will improve your sailing and doesn't require other boats, doesn't require any setup, you know, requires 2 marks and somebody to watch, or if not, nobody to watch, just doing it on your own.
Great. Richard, what are your thoughts on a drill, 1 or 2 drills that you would recommend people do on their own?
I'm a real fan of you know, and maybe we're all going to pick starting drills. But there's no coincidence that we're all sort of starting drills are high on our priority list because the start is, you know, you can certainly lose races from a good start and win races from a bad start, but having a good start's certainly, no coach is going to argue that that's starting successfully is a recipe to finishing successfully. So I will put a starting drill in there as well. And for me, it's that low speed boat handling. We're non-class specific. You can do it in any boat. Some boats are easier than others, obviously, but it's literally, you can pick any object that's floating in the ocean or the lake or wherever you are. And it's literally just keeping your bow as close as you can to that object without, obviously this works in a dinghy environment. In a boat like a Melges 24 or a J70 or a small keel boat, you have to keep some sort of flow over your foils to keep yourself from sliding sideways. But if we're talking about a dinghy here, there's no, a great dinghy drill is to try and keep your bow on that. Could be a channel mark, could be a crab pot, could be anything, as long as you can. And then when you can't, and you can tack back and forth, you can do all things, but it's just trying to keep your boat in the same space of water is something that I think is really good. And I certainly look at a lot of the top dinghy sailors that I coach are very, very good at that skill. That's one.
Yeah, I think what's a good one of that one. Well, go ahead. I think the good one of that one also is when you have your go is then you give yourself, how long did it take me to get up to speed?
Yeah.
So that's a thing to add on to that with your time, with your timer. If you say you do it for 5 minutes or 3 minutes, and then, okay, you have go on your watch, and then you get up to speed and you can look at your watch and say, okay, it took me 5 seconds to get up to speed. Those are definitely.
Which is always something that's really tough, and you certainly do this when you're just coaching one boat on its own. When you do acceleration or launch drills, right? It's pretty easy to get to target speed if you put the bow down, 5 degrees below optimum VMG. So anytime you're doing these sort of drills, you have to make it as realistic as you can, and go, yeah, we can't. We're doing a high build here. I'm going to struggle to get to target like I would in a race. You have to make these drills as realistic as you can as well.
Absolutely. Morgan, what are your thoughts when you go out there practice on your own? Morgan, are you there? Maybe not. Is he frozen?
It looks pretty stationary.
It looks frozen. Oh, he's trying to get back on.
He just lost his camera. Morgan, you back?
I think I'm back.
Yeah.
I didn't know if we all disappeared or just me. I guess it was just me.
It was just you. So why don't you give us 1 or 2 drills that you would do if you're sailing out by yourself or in a double-handed boat?
I would just continue on the same theme with starting. And I always try to explain to my sailors, you're either racing the line, in which case where the line is, where Dave's scenario would work out very, very accurately, so that you're able to look at either end of the line and know where the line is. But quite often in big tight fleets, you're going to lose sight of either end, in which case you're going to be, doing the other option is racing the boats next to you. So in that case, you want to be able to stay bow even with them, if not perhaps just a smidge further forward if you don't have bow numbers, and the committee's relying on sail numbers to pick you out. But the key is to be able to accelerate accurately and powerfully. And, that technique is going to depend on the day. It's going to depend on the boat you're in, the water conditions, the sea conditions. So that's something you should practice in isolation every day you're out there. And it's something you should practice as part of your pre-race and pre-start routine every single race you do, not just the first race of a day, but every single one. Because if all you can do is just accelerate a little better than people either side of you, you're going to have really good starts.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. that's all really good advice, and I think all things that people want to have a good start, and I know that's definitely a big thing and one that people focus on a lot, and so that's pretty good. So I'm gonna kind of let people know what you guys have done and put you guys on what sometimes is uncomfortable, sometimes is not. And we'll start with Dave Ullman. So Dave, can you tell us what's your proudest sailing moment?
I actually have two, which has to do with longevity. I won my first 470 Worlds in 1977 in Japan, in what was the second quad 470s. I won the Melges 24 Worlds in Santa Cruz in 2007, 30 years apart. I think that's I'm the most proud of, that I could stick around competitively for that long. And I actually have to thank Richard for a big part of the Santa Cruz win. The Pegasus, of which Richard was a huge part of, made that possible through an extensive training program and some very, very, very talented people around us. But to me, to be able to win a championship with a 30-year spread, with some in between, to me is the highlight of my sailing career, and it got me in the Sailing Hall of Fame. I think partially because of that.
Well, and it says a lot also because of the quality of the classes as well. Dave, you didn't just go win worlds in classes no one knows about. You won worlds in two classes at their primes, pretty much. Especially, their Olympic class is always hard, and then the Melges 24 class was very strong at that time. So
yeah, it was the heyday of the 24 class, and it was really fun because there were a lot of very good people sailing. It was great sailing.
Well, before I knew her, but my wife was racing against you in Santa Cruz.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
That's one of my favorite regattas too.
Yeah.
So, Richard, how about you?
Proudest, I was like, damn, man, I wish you prompted me. I would have actually given this some thought. So it's got to be like off the cuff here. Volvo Ocean Race win. That was a big one. Yep. 2001 with Ilbrook. I'd never really done it. That whole Volvo thing for me was a trial by fire. I went into it after the 2000 Olympics. I'd never been on a boat where I couldn't see land, and tried out for this team with a lot of very experienced ocean racers. And I did my very best not to make it by throwing our cooking pot over the side during my tryout, by wiping the boat out and blowing up spinnakers. I was a menace in all sorts of ways, and actually being able to make the team become a very good offshore sailor and then win the race. That was something, a personal, everyone talks about sailing around the world as an Everest type of moment. That certainly was mine at the time. It is, us gray hairs are fortunate to have a longish career. So there are some other good, proud moments that crop up. I think it means that we're good at our jobs, and good sailors as well. We had a great year last year on the Wizard, winning a bunch of events, Fastnet, Transatlantic Race, Caribbean 600. That was a really good, sort of recent proud moment as well. Something that was historical. No one had won a Caribbean 600 or a Fastnet in the same year before, so that was a pretty good year.
Yeah, that's definitely some awesome stuff. And I've never done anything offshore other than, 1,000 miles here or there. But that's got to be an awesome, especially being able to, be with such a good program. So that's definitely awesome.
Can
Morgan,
I ask
what's your
question?
Yeah, go for it.
Only because I have the true pleasure of working with a few of the people that sailed on Ilbrook. And if you go down the names of the people that were on that team on the boat, it is nothing short of impressive. Can you go through some of the names, Richard? Because that must have been an eye-opening experience for someone that hadn't gone offshore, and you look to see what those people have done since.
Well, you start with Kostecki as a skipper. Obviously Olympic medalist and world champion, and his, the impressive, sailing resume. Navigators were, Juan Villa and, Ian Moore, again, they've gone on to do great things in the sport. Watch captains Stu Bannatyne and Mark Christensen. Trimmers Ross Hallcrow and who was the other trimmer? God, I'm gonna get in trouble.
Yeah. Somebody's going to be unhappy.
I know. I'm trying to think who was on watch with. Cheese, Dirk the Ritter. Sorry, Cheese. And I was going to sail with Cheese on the Tahiti race. Bad me. Jamie Gale, myself, Tony Kolb, Stu Bettany, Ray Davies. It's pretty. Yeah, certainly you can imagine. When I showed up as the Olympic fin sailor guy and we tried to go offshore with that group, I was a little intimidated.
Could be the best crew assembled offshore ever.
It was pretty amazing. It was, when you went into back in the day, doing 400 plus miles was a big day. And I remember in the Southern Ocean stringing like 4 or 5 days at 400 miles, toting on, world record pace. And, it's just being able to have that skill, to push the boat that hard was pretty incredible.
Yeah, that's awesome. Definitely sounds like a great experience. And more recent, obviously, a lot of us know what you guys have been doing on the Wizard. And, that was an incredible run you guys had over about a year with a cool boat as well. And I'm obviously a good team. So that you definitely have some cool opportunities that are a little different than most people watching. Morgan, what's your one or two favorite moments in sailing?
As a sailor, my longtime crew, Kevin Burnham, would force me to say it was the Olympics in Barcelona, purely because I sailed with him and he made it so much fun. But it was, a special Olympics in that the Olympic Village was built around the Olympic Marina. So often now sailing in the Olympics is in another city that's quite distant from the rest of the Olympic competition. So we were right in the middle of the Olympic freak show, to be honest, because every meal we'd go to, there was a cafeteria staffed by Spanish cooking school students, and it was open 24 hours a day. And every meal you'd go to, you had no idea who you were going to sit next to. And the gymnasts you'd see were smaller and paler than they look on television. And, the high jumpers were far taller and skinnier. And to be honest, the one person that no one could figure out what he did was the longtime U.S. team boatwright Carl Eichenlaub, who was a tireless worker, and he would come in his team clothing, and he'd probably burnt part of his jacket with a blowtorch, and he had some epoxy on the other sleeve, and everyone would look at him, and he's 70 something years old, and they go, what sport does he do? But it was amazing being part of that U.S. team. We ended up as a group winning 9 medals. So 1 gold medal, 7 silver medals, and 1 bronze medal in the team. And the worst result was a 5th. So, compared to what we look at now, I feel very, very lucky to have been part of that.
Were we all there? I was there. Was Dave, were you there?
I coached JJ, but wasn't before the games, but not during the games.
I was an alternate back when they had those things, and all I did was get really, really fat. Speaking of the meals and the food there.
Yeah, well, we did just the opposite, because Kevin and I were just trying to lose weight all the time. So, they had that. Richard probably took advantage of it, to be honest. I remember the dessert section, they had a a huge pyramid of cakes and pies, and there were all you can eat. And we watched the Canadian board sailor. Richard, do you remember his name?
Was it Richard Myerscough? Was he?
Yeah, he ended up getting hit by a Spanish police car and was in a wheelchair with a broken leg during the games. Didn't get to compete, but we saw him before he got hurt, and he was trying to lose weight too. And he would walk over to the frozen ice cream display, and he'd just stand there for about 5 minutes looking at it every night. Kevin and I go, think he's going to get any tonight? And he'd look, and then he'd just walk away. So that was his
With his eyes.
Yeah, no, it was torture. But Kevin and I, we both look like Ethiopians, to be honest, by the end of the competition, because we just wanted to make sure we were as light as we could be. And we went into the last race with a chance to get a gold medal. Only 2 teams could win a gold medal. 5 teams could win a silver medal, and 8 teams could win a bronze medal. So our coach, Skip White, made us a little spreadsheet of the eight other teams, and if they finish here, you have to finish here, and so on and so forth. And then we had to contend with the Spaniard Jordi Califat and his crew Kiko going after us in the start to just try to prevent us from winning the race, because that was the only way we could win the gold medal. So at Mark 1, we were in 24th place, no medal. And thankfully they were real men's races. So we had a triangle, windward, leeward, triangle, windward. And just kind of picked off boat by boat, leg by leg. And I spent most of the race humming the theme from Chariots of Fire, just thinking about the fact that, this was a great experience, whether we won a medal or not. And when we crossed the finish line, 3 boats crossed at about the same time, and we were one of them. And Kevin said, "How do we do?" And I looked at the spreadsheet, and all the people that had to finish way in front of us to beat us were way in front of us, and the people that had to beat us by a little bit were just a little in front of us. And I said, "I have no idea." And it was about a 45-minute sail back to the dock upwind, and a photo boat came by and took pictures, and Kevin said, "How do we do? How do we do?" And the guy just waved. So Kevin asked me another 6 or 7 times on the sail in, "How do we do, Morgan?" I said, "Kevin, I still have no idea." So it wasn't until we got to the ramp when there were, about 40 Americans waving flags, and finally Mike Shuttle, the Olympic director, helped us pull our boat up. And I said, "Mike, how do we do?" And he goes, "You won a silver medal." And it wasn't until Skip showed us the scores that we'd only won by, a 1/10 of a point or 3/10 of a point or something like that with the Olympic scoring. So we didn't have our medal ceremony until the next evening. And I kept waiting for someone to come up and tap us on the shoulder and say, "I'm sorry, we made a mistake. You didn't win a medal." And at the medal ceremony, it was out on a dock in the middle of the Olympic harbor, and the Tornadoes got their medals just before the 470s. And the French that won the gold medal, the Americans, Randy Smythe and Keith Notary, got second. And Keith and Randy reached up to shake the Frenchmen's hands and grabbed them and threw them right off the dock into the water. And Jordi and Kiko looked at Kevin and I and said, "You will not do that to us, will you?" Kevin goes, "You are going in." And he goes, "Don't know the king and queen are here, please don't." So nothing but good memories.
That's awesome. All right. So you guys have any questions for each other?
Ooh.
For Morgan, you're coaching such a diversity of classes and sailors. How do you keep what you're doing straight and figure out what the routines are for the different teams? I mean, you have totally opposite types of boats you're coaching.
Yeah, well, I as Dave said, I end up coaching everything from my son in a laser radial to Olympic 470s to TP 52s. And to be honest, I'm desperately consistent in what I focus on. And a lot of that just has to do with a consistent pre-start routine and focusing on getting around the weather mark in the top 30% of the fleet and just going from there. So you're keeping things pretty simple.
Yeah.
And as long as you have good speed and don't take too many risks, you're going to have a chance to win a medal going into the final race.
Perfect.
I got a question because we sort of assume that sailors are watching us and what's the best, but what if other coaches are watching us? And I'm sort of still evolving my trade as a coach. What's your favorite piece of technology, either Dave or Morgan?
You want to do it, Morgan, or you want me?
No, go for it, Dave.
Techie guy. One thing I've just acquired, I'm a strong believer in coaching with visuals. Less talk, more photos, more videos, more things that actually apply. I just bought a Panasonic GH5 camera. Quite expensive camera with some different lenses. I can, let's say I'm coaching Etchells. A half a mile away, I can see on Benji's boat where his jib leads are, in and out, from a half a mile away during a race. This camera has changed what happens usually during races, I don't get to do much. Well, this camera has changed that completely. I can see a long way and it's crystal clear.
How's it for being weatherproof, or what are your
waterproof?
Waterproof.
No way.
Yeah. Extra $1,000 to be waterproof. But, it makes all the sense in the world. You don't, on a wet day, you're not worried, or a spray day, you're not worried about the camera. So that's become a main tool. I also use
image stabilized as well.
What's that?
Is it stabilized?
Lens and body stabilized. It's rock solid. You can do on a rough day full 4K video with it. It's pretty amazing. The other thing I presume all three of us are using is Sail22 for current readings. Morgan, you too?
Yep.
Yeah. It seems pretty invaluable. And then the last thing I've gotten is wind instruments from the Olympic Committee that I take on all my coach boats. It's portable. I take it with me, and it's a great tool to show for me to understand what's happening pre-race. Also, I photograph what's happening. It has an hour screen that says wind direction and velocity for the last hour. I photograph that and then hand it on an iPad what the last hours look like between races to the people who are sailing. So I don't have to tell them, well, maybe it's going right, maybe it's going left, maybe right has more velocity. There's an actual screen with graphs that I can show them, which is a huge help.
How's it for calibration when you're moving on the coach boat?
It's not good when you're doing circles.
Okay.
But if you're going straight or making slow arcs, it's perfect. It just takes some time. You have to spend time working on it and making sure that it's right. And it's not a one-time deal. It's probably every regatta I have to spend some time calibrating. But I think it's a pretty good
who does the system?
I can't actually tell you since I bought it as a package from the Olympic Committee.
No problem. Yeah.
It's mostly B&G.
Right.
Yeah. So those are the things I'm using on every group that I'm coaching.
Morgan, how about you?
Oh, Dave picked out having a great camera is, really, really special, because we're in so many events now where they stick coaches in a penalty box, like we're going to do something evil, or somehow dictating where sailors are going to go. So I have had them for years. A pair of Fujinon image stabilized 14x40 binoculars, and as Dave said, from half a mile away, he can use his camera to document what's going on. And with the binoculars, while you can't document it, you can probably see it from about a mile away. So those are invaluable. Big hassle carting them around, but great when you're able to access them, and it makes you feel like you're in the race, to be honest, when the people around you are a mile away from the action and completely disassociated with it in comparison.
So how do you guys keep all of your data, so when you get off the water, you can use it, whether it's not you take less photos, that type of thing. Like if you get off the water and you have all this data to help these guys get better, how do you manage that data?
I put everything in an iPad Pro, and then edit it and do my debriefs off of TV out of the iPad Pro. And I have in my iPad Pro photos from the last 5 years, everything I've ever taken. So I can go back, I can go forward, but I can do the day debrief off, what I've done. And if there's no TV available, the iPad Pro is big enough that you can actually use it. I like that better than lugging a computer around.
Certainly the iPad's really good, I find, for instantaneous off the water or even between race, obviously conditions dependent, sail shots, rig shots, set up, our team versus other teams. It's really quite effective right off the water just to sit there and just scroll through, have your team, scroll through those pictures still fresh in the mind. I've got, I always joke, particularly if you're coaching two teams and once the coach hits the dock, that's really when our work starts, because usually a debrief is going to be somewhere 2 hours later, depending upon the day, maybe even shorter. But, I think as coaches, one of the things that we really do is try not to make, the debrief too long. And that you got to pick your 3 points or whatever points it's going to be. Is it 3 points per team? But be able to make that debrief. 45 minutes is my target time, which might not seem like a lot, but when there's so much going on at the end of the day, the debrief has to be short and concise and really have a purpose and a couple points that you're trying to drill home. So to do that effectively, I find it probably takes me close to an hour of just editing and formatting and knowing what part of what video. There's some good tools out there. I really like the Sail22 program. I can have multiple video sources on the screen at the same time with multiple boat data. If I've got even two teams, I would have both their boat data, so you can really compare. Although there's a lot going on, but there's some good, certainly products out there to help play back and make video and picture debriefs quick and effective.
Yep. Morgan?
Yeah, I forgot the one piece of technology that I haven't personally used, but thankfully other people supply it, as drone video. And I think there's going to be a time where we're going to be able to deal with all of it ourselves and send a drone up ourselves and leave it over the start line or a mark and come back and get it after the start while we take still photos or video from our coach boat. So that's something that I if it's accessible from another source, I always try to get it.
We've been using that pretty extensively in the Etchells this last winter, and it is invaluable. My only comment is use it quick, because I think that World Sailing, if they were to get their act together, will outlaw it. Because they're going to run, you get enough of drones up there and they're going to run into each other.
So that kind of leads into something that we're kind of working on, and that is creating events that, the technology is there. So obviously we need the coaches, but, as an event, we would have the drone and the other data, and then, rely on then you guys to tell us, number one, what we need to have there, but then have it. So you don't have to worry about extra drones, extra this or that. And then, trying to simplify for you guys to not have to be piled with your own data, but, then to be able to do the debriefing where, you have, say, 6 to 10 boats, because we don't know how many people we're going to be able to be sailing with once we can race. But if we can have a small number, but have like more data, and I don't, we don't want to use the data against ourselves, but I know if you can show, a boat's heel angle, one versus another, its backstay tension, one versus another, you can kind of get your point across a little more. Does that make sense to you guys?
We're actually in the FX using a program very similar to that, which I won't give names of the program, just, to honor the person who's put it together. But when we two boat test, we have a program that reads all the vital things on both boats and plays it back real time to us, plays it back so we can see it on a pad and share it with the two people that are testing, or 3 people, depending on how many they have. That in real time, we can show it to them. We're also I'm doing that in photos, and my camera goes into my pad real time. So I can show photos on the water. I don't have to go in. I have to sort them real quick, but at least I can show them on the water and hand the pad to whoever wants to see the photo. And that's pretty valuable.
Yeah, I know our goal also is to, not everyone is going to be able to hire you guys, but if the event did, then it, keeps the cost down. And you're not going to have 50 people, but you're going to have, at max maybe 15. And so then that can make it a little better to help, our goal, obviously, our top guys are going to they're going to do whatever they need to do. And our goal is, I joke in a way and say, we don't really care about the top guys. We care about the bottom guys and the middle guys. It's a joke, but it's not a joke. We need the top guys to figure out what we need, and then we need trickle down so we can then keep everyone attached. And so that's one of the things we're going to be working on, is keeping everyone attached. So, if you go to a regatta and you guys are working with the top teams, we can also get the bottom teams some help as well.
Another thing is, I'm sure with the 3 of us or any other top coach, all you got to do is ask. None of us are going to hold stuff back. We will help anybody that asks. Now, we're not going to go out and solicit people, but if anybody asks, certainly me, and I'm sure the other 2, if anybody asks, what do you think of this? Or what do you think of that? Or give me your opinion, you're going to get the right information.
No, I completely agree with Dave. It's like we are, trying to help our own teams that we're coaching, but yeah, if anybody needs any advice or feedback, or even I've had people come up and say, hey, we're really struggling this event. Can you just slide by us at some point today and let us know what you think? And yeah, it's no skin off my back to zip, behind them and say, and maybe it's not something that I can give them feedback on the day because of other stuff that's going on, but I certainly would find them at the dock and say, hey, yeah, this is what I definitely saw. So yeah, we're very approachable. And I love the idea also, Ed, of being able to, being brought in and to be able to coach multiple teams at one event, being hired by, a bunch of boats and helping out, a lot of teams at once. It could be a cool idea.
Yeah. And I know the reason why, you guys are successful is also because you have great owners that they understand and they want you guys to help out other people too. I know that from them. We've even had regattas where we've had coaches get hired, and we know you can't coach on the water in certain ones. We actually made a rule for one regatta one time, and you guys weren't there, but a coach was brought in by one of the boat owners, and we had it written into the regatta NOR that coach could in between races could coach anyone that finished in the bottom 5 in between races. And so that was pretty cool because we've had some situations where the bottom, the guys at the bottom, especially if they're in the bottom 5 and it's a big fleet, they need help, and everyone wants them to stay sailing. And so, it's just, I know you guys definitely do that. And I know you guys even approach people like that, to say, hey, why don't you try this, and I think that goes a long way. So, and to wrap everything up and kind of finish off, unless you guys want to say something, we can just let everyone know what you think your plans are in the next couple months, as we hopefully are coming out of this social distancing. Dave, do you want to start?
Well, I have 4 groups that I'm active with, and all 4 groups are going ahead. There's an Etchells group, which is 3 boats. There's IC37 that I will be sailing on and coaching now that I'm a Cat 1. Just, yeah, and get a little nod there.
Loophole.
Cat 1 because of age. I'm aged out.
Oh, and it really?
Yeah, 73. Become a Cat 1 again.
That's the age number now?
Yep, I didn't make the rule.
Weren't you on that committee?
No, I don't even know where it came from. Actually, I was in the airport and Vince came by me and said, we're Cat 1s again. And I said, what are you talking about? I said, oh yeah, go look at the regulations. And I have a J70 group, and then my priority is helping Steph and Maggie with FX. And so that, they're coming to California quite soon as they can get out of Florida, basically. And so between those 4 groups, it's going to be a busy year next year, but it'll be exciting. It'll be fun.
Richard?
Right now, the next event that's teetering on my calendar is both MAC races. They are both still a go. They're both, although I haven't heard from Chicago, but Bayview announced they're going to push to as close as 3 weeks before the start, before they make their decision. So it sort of has, from a logistical side point, has put a lot of balls in motion for the Wizard program, because we're doing both of those races on the old Wizard, which is an old Bellamente, Michael Pugh 74. So that's sort of, that could be my the next event. And then, I'm coaching Melgis 24 program, and they are talking about moving that event, Melgis Worlds, to December. So what will that look like, and on that side? But that's really it. My other sort of stuff is all sort of sailing wise, and with the J70 Worlds being postponed a year and unsure what California events may or may go off, it's sort of in stasis at the moment.
So the rumor I have is the Chicago MAC decision is May 14th.
Okay.
So I will have some Dave Gerber here this weekend with some V15 coaching. So that'll be past that. If nothing happens, I'll be able to pick his brain for anyone that needs to help, even though he's not in that loop. But we'll see. I know our local biggest sailing program here with Culver Academies, their decision to host camp or not is May 15th. So this is a big week for us in the Midwest, but we are doing a Vanguard 15 series starting this weekend using Markset bots and just making it simple and 2-person. So that should be interesting. Morgan, what's your next couple months look like, or end of the year?
Well, I just looked at my schedule, and I don't have a confirmed regatta until August in the UK in an RC44. So my British Olympic team sailors, they just got cleared to be able to sail in England starting today, but they can only sail alone or in a double-handed boat with someone else in their own household and without a coach. So it's all starting very slowly, but who knows? We shall see. Got to stay flexible.
That's for sure. But does anyone have anything they want to say to wrap up?
Besides Ed, thank you. Thank you, Ed, for doing these and yeah, keeping the sport in the minds of all of us and anybody else, everybody that's watching. It's good. What you're doing for the sport's awesome, man. Thank you.
I second that. Nice job, Ed. Keep it up.
And certainly, I just wanted to applaud Ed for, pushing the middle and the bottom of the fleet and supporting them, because they're the ones that populate and keep the big regattas big and the important regattas important. As soon as they disappear and don't see a benefit to get better and move up, then they're out of here. So that's the key.
Yep. Well, I think I might be the luckiest, as in we're going to have sailing right here this weekend for the next 3 weeks, the next 3 Saturdays with the Chicago Vanguard 15 fleet. And that could be hopefully good. We don't know our plan for our local racing yet, but technically it starts Memorial Day weekend. And then I'm PROing the RS21 North Americans at Lakewood Yacht Club with their new 12 RS21s, and we're inviting up to 24 teams. That's June 18th to the 21st. So if you have any teams that are interested, just have them shoot me a note. But it's 1 pro per team if you want it, per class rules, and basically we'll do boat rotations and do a lot of short course and what I call college sailing for adults, 3 to 4 man boats. So that'll be fun. And, we're trying some things with these events using Markset bots to limit race committees, because I think that might be our biggest challenge, in the soon things is, these race committees end up needing too many people on the boats, for good reason. But if we can eliminate some of that, we will using Markset bots. So, we'll stay in touch with all you guys, and any questions, just shoot them our way. And if anyone needs contact, these are 3 of the best in the sport, both from sailors to coaches. And so, I think just, pay attention, follow them, and we really appreciate taking the time to be with us. So thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you, Ed.
Thank you, Ed.
Thank you. We're out.
All right. We'll talk to you guys later then. Thanks a lot.
All right.
Yeah, thanks.